Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Sit Downs with Charlie Brown. I'm your host, DJ Charlie Brown, or whatever you choose to call me, and on again for another edition, because he just loves coming back for more sometimes, i.e. I probably just tell him and he says yes, is my great brother, Mr. Joseph Groebner. What's up, bro?
Not much.
Yeah, it's that time again where you and I sit down and we break down the NHL season, as the Stanley Cup Final is going to be happening on Tuesday or Wednesday. I forget which date. It's the 3rd. Tuesday, yeah, that's what I thought. So I figured we might as well go over what's happened both at the end of the regular season and then the postseason and give our predictions. So first team up, to the surprise of a lot of people, it's not the Anaheim Ducks, it's the Calgary Flames. To be honest, I think the biggest takeaway with the Flames this year is I think it's time for them to rebuild, which is clear from what they kind of saw like after the deadline. You know, they got some returns for the likes of sorry, just don't want you to tip the that. So starting just kind of going that. So with the Flames, like I was saying, I think realistically, like, it's kind of time, like, I think they're starting to embrace a rebuild. You know, they traded off Weegar, Anderson, and Kadri. I'm guessing they're probably going to trade Coleman and Whitecloud as well. I don't think they're going to trade Huberdeau because of his contract, but yeah, like, they've got some. I have their cap thing up. They've got a lot of cap space and they've got a lot of draft picks, so I imagine it can be a quick turnaround if everything goes right for them.
It's a rebuild. They're going to be quite a few years away, but it's probably the best direction for them is to finally just ripping off in the rebuild. They have pieces coming up already, but like the more pieces they can get, the better.
Yeah, because I know Parek's probably going to make his debut because they couldn't send him to the AHL due to his age because he just turned 20, so that was a thing. So they'll probably see more of him. They got some young guys mostly, like they got a couple of UFAs, but other than that, like that's really to say with Calgary right now. So now the bigger one that I think I want to talk a lot about is Chicago. You know, I get they're still in a rebuild, but you would have think that they would see some progress right now, especially with a guy like Connor Bedard at the helm. But the problem is, it's just like, for whatever reason, it just seems like they can never break through. Like, they just can never get out of, like, the bottom three in the division, you know? And it showed this year, as it was another season where, you know, they had to sell off guys towards the end. And I mean, like, that's the thing with Chicago. Like, Bedard, really good player, but I think the problem is there's nothing around him. Like, when his line mates are Tyler, Bertuzzi, and Green, like, that's an issue. Like, I don't know. No, like, personally, I don't think it was a good idea to extend Kyle Davidson, but what do I know? So,
yeah, I mean, it's a very young team. That's part of the problem as well. Mm-hmm. And it's going to have to be a process, but I think one of the biggest issues, and I mean, I don't know in hindsight if this really matters that much, but when the Rookie of the Year voting came out, none of their rookies got a vote.
I mean, like, here's the thing. Like, you look at the roster right now, the one guy, aside from Bedard, who, by the way, he's an RFA, have fun with those contract talks, like, the one guy who I think, you know, actually has talent of this group is Frank Nazar, and he's a center. He's barely playing with Bedard. The problem is, like a lot of their wingers, like, are Andre Burakovsky, Teuvo Teravainen. Like, it's a lot of retreads. Like, no one young for him to be a wingman for. At least not yet, I should say. I think that's the kind of thing. Like, I think Spencer Knight had a good start. Want to see more, but overall, like, they got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
So. But the good news is they got $43 million in cap space to play with, which is, oh boy. So yeah, now the Blue Jackets. You know, I just kind of am like, where do you go with this team at this point? You know, like, they had, you know, obviously firing Dean Evison and bringing in Rick Bowness. That was a great move. just because it got the team back. But then at the moment they needed it most in March, they collapsed. It's just, I don't know with this team. Like, it's the same issues where they lack the offensive firepower. You know, their defense is nothing besides Zach Werenski. Like, and it's clear, like, they clearly need to move on from Elvis. Like, I don't know. Like, if there's any indication, like, Columbus should learn the term bag skate, because Rick Bowness gave the fear of God in that final presser. You saw that, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, like, I just don't know where you go with the Blue Jackets at this rate. Like, I get they're kind of in a transitional period, but it's like, I don't know what else is needed of this group.
It's kind of more of they're stuck in limbo. They're not bad enough to tank and get, like, first overall, but they're also good enough where they were just out of the playoffs just by a little bit. So they could make the playoffs, but what's the ceiling there? Not too far into it. So I feel like they're kind of just in, like, this limbo state.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am too. And I mean, I think if they can get to the playoffs next year, it goes a long way, because I think Bonus really can change the culture here. I think like he said, like, they got to really want to start winning. Like, they're not going to get out of futility just by hoping everything goes right. So, yeah. Now, Detroit. I have one simple question for Detroit, and I'm going to look at into the camera. What is your major malfunction, Marine? I'm not even joking. Like, dude, it says something when this collapse might be worse than Vancouver's in 08. At least they didn't collapse. At least with them, they didn't blow a division team. They blew the wild card spot, because it's the same things over and over and over again. Like, and this season was actually good for them. You know, they had Sider and Raymond look good. Larkin became an American hero. Gibson found his old form as a Duck. But, you know, it's just after January 25th, they had a total meltdown. Like, I really don't know what you do with it, because realistically, they're not going to fire Yzerman, and I don't know what else you do with this team right now. Like, dead serious. Like, I'm going to pull up their cap space right now, because I think the big thing is, like, yeah, they have a few guys who are going to be RFAs, but or UFAs, I should say. But the question is, Detroit needs freaking Jesus, is what I'm trying to say at this point. Like, I don't know what else to do with them.
Yeah, going into next year, I think it is, like, it's playoffs or bust for Detroit.
Yeah, because especially
they have to.
Because especially now, because with the Sabres making the playoffs this year and winning a playoff round, which we'll get more into, like, they have the longest drought. And especially in a crazy hockey market like Detroit, that's not going to fly very long. So I think if they don't get the playoffs this year, it would not be shocked if people were starting to call for Yzerman's head. Like, I think they're probably calling for him now, if I'm being honest.
I just think next year is big for them.
Yeah. So now Florida. Honestly, like, I think with Florida, like, the issue for them wasn't because they were bad. It was more so the fact that they were injured to hell and back. You know, here's the thing. Losing Barkov for the year and then Matthew Tkachuk for a handful of games was just a start. Seth Jones was struck down before the Olympic break. Eetu Luostarinen, Brad Marchand, Aaron Ekblad, Sam Reinhart, Thomas Novak, Evan Rodriguez, Nico Mikkola, Anton Lundell, all of them were taken out of action for time. You know, they were down to Luke Cunnin, Cole Schwinn, and Vinny Henestroza. Like, you're not really going to recover that. Like, obviously, like, you know, obviously I think like the Cups help ease the blow, but I think it would have been more fun if they could defend the title. But I mean, realistically, I don't know what else more you want from them. Like, I think the big concern I have with them is more so the core is getting older, and I think you got to wonder about Sergei Bobrovsky. You know, his contract's up this year, and he's 37. Is he just going to say he's done?
Yeah, I think Florida will be back next year. They were just ravaged with injuries.
Yeah, they had a shitload.
But I think the key for them to determine whether they will be back to being a Stanley Cup champion or not is going to be goaltending. Mm-hmm. If Bobrovsky is back, if he's not back, then who's going to be in net?
Yeah, because right now, because both their goalies in Bobrovsky and Tarasov are going to be UFAs. So there's a chance that going into camp you have an entire new goalie room, which is kind of the main thing. So, yeah, Nashville. I feel like the highlight for them this year was having Barry Trotz step down as GM. From there, after that, it's just kind of like it was just kind of a slog to get through the year. Like I think realistically, I don't know if they've, I don't know. I forget if they've named a GM or executive yet, but I think realistically, like, you got to look at this team and you got to think we got to probably start stripping this down and rebuilding because obviously, like, I think they've got some draft picks to play with. I have cap wages pulled up just for people listening online, just so that we can actually look more at what they're working with. Yeah, so they've got their first round pick. They've got 2 seconds because one from Minnesota, one from one that's Nashville's. They got a couple draft picks, but I think the bigger issue is just the fact that you know they have a lot of guys on long-term deals that haven't really performed. Like, I think Stamkos you probably can get rid of. Marchessault's going to be a little tough. You can get rid of O'Reilly. I guarantee you someone will take him. You're not trading Brady Shea because his contract's borderline unmovable at his age, but I don't really know. Like, would you agree that you think rebuilding is probably in the cards for Nashville?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a really bad situation for Nashville right now. So, yeah. So now we go to New Jersey. This, kids, is called How to Mangle a Franchise 101 by Tom Fitzgerald. You know, the entire year was just a regression and just a complete disaster, you know. I think realistically, the warning sign should have came when Jack Hughes got injured at a team dinner, you know. From there, it was just a complete and utter just disaster for them. And the worst part was, come the deadline, they couldn't move anyone because majority of their guys were on no movement clauses. Like, here's the thing. You get why Jesper Bratt, Nico Hischier, Jack Hughes, and more were on those kind of deals. But why is Evgeny Dadonov, Jake Allen, and Brent Pesce on those deals? Why? Is the big question. But realistically, like, you know, that was ultimately the thing that got Tom Fitzgerald sacked his team as GM, and Sonny Mehta's coming in to try and clean this up. You know, like, the Devils, they have a lot of work to do because they don't have much cap space this year. Like, obviously, Dadonov's coming off the books, you know, and Dennis Cholowski. But other than that, they got to find a way to get out of Dougie Hamilton's deal. They got to find a way out of Brent Pesce's deal. They got to find a way out of a couple of these bad deals that they have. So
Yep.
Which is going to be hard because I think the thing is that this is probably one of the more interesting off seasons because very few teams have little assets to spend on, with a lot of teams looking to dump stuff. That's the big thing going into this offseason.
Yes, I agree with that. And New Jersey, yeah, they have a lot to do with. They need to dump some cap and rebuild, like, kind of retool the team.
Yeah, like, I'm not saying rebuild, because, like, you still have Jack Hughes, you still have Jesper Bratt, you still have Nico Hischier. Like, that's a big three you can work with compared to other teams. And they still got some young guys. Like, and I know many people were probably complaining about Luke Hughes, but I mean, here's the thing. He's 22 years old. Like, there's a chance that, like, you know, within the next 2 years, we're going to see what he becomes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So now the Islanders. You know, I'm in 2 states with the Islanders. You know, on one hand, I think you see their youth. Like, you know, Matthew Schaefer, like, the dude is straight up probably is one of the most hyped prospects for good reason. He came out of the draft. He's probably a franchise D-man, and he's not even old enough to drink yet, is the crazy thing. But I think the overall thing was with the Devils this year, I think they made a mistake trying to buy at the deadline, just because it seemed a little too premature. Just because, you know, they were, you know, Schaefer's a good player, but I feel like the team as a whole was overachieving, and I think it wasn't sustainable to want to buy. You know, I think going forward, this team could definitely make some noise because they got some prospects on the way, and I think a couple of guys are coming off the books. I also think I do have concerns, though, just because firing Patrick Waugh, I totally get. Like, replacing him with Peter DeBoer, like, I get it. He'll probably take them to the conference finals, but don't come crying to us when he pisses off Sorokin. We just know it's going to probably happen at some point.
Yeah. I mean, they got Massey Schaefer to build around.
Yeah.
So
I think the big thing is, like, they have their first this year. They don't have picks in rounds 2 or 3. I think they really got to hope that a lot of their young guys like Yzerman and Moore can come up.
And they could. I think the key with kind of the Metro overall, I feel like there's Carolina and then there's kind of like a gap. Like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia made the playoffs, but they're not really
they're
that
not
good.
really
like,
good.
I feel like if you have a good offseason in the Metro, like just a decent one and fix some things, you could probably be a playoff team.
For sure, yeah. So, yeah, now, we move. Also, I think with the Isles, like, Anders Lee is going to hitting the open market. I think he's coming back. Like, I don't think he's moving at his age. Like, that. I just think he'll come back out of discount.
Okay, I take it back. The next team?
Oh.
I don't think that.
Yeah,
I take it back for the next team.
Here's the thing. There is only one thing I have with the Rangers. Answer me this, Rangers. Why does Chris Drury still have a job? Dead ass. Like, here's the thing. This year was terrible for the Rangers. Obviously, like, this is. You wonder why Pittsburgh popped champagne when Sully got axed? This is kind of why. But even for that, like, it's just, the Rangers are clearly deluding themselves to think this team is going to do anything. JT Miller and Mika Zibanejad were nowhere near good and are locked up till 2030. Aside from Coyle, Trocheck, and some splash plays, there's no one else that you can really say had a good year. Like, Noah Lava, like, he's young and I think could be something, but he's not a franchise-altering player. And it's just like, it's pretty much, I hate to say it, Igor's going to turn into the next King Henrik at this rate. Because, here's the thing, because, and I feel like I'm rambling with this. Like, the Rangers are just a mess. Like, even at the deadline, they should have traded Trocheck, but they didn't. Like, it's just, why is Drury still employed? That's the big question I have.
Yeah. It's going to be a tough offseason for them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they don't have the pieces, but, like, I feel like they just are missing
so much.
And, like, everyone the stars aren't performing, and that's also part of the issue.
Yeah, and I think out of the, like, here's the thing, and that's the problem. They don't want to admit to that, which is the issue. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I also did want to shout out Jonathan Quick, who is officially retired who did officially call it a career. Like, heck of a player. Enjoy retirement, man, because, like, it feels like a lot of our childhood players are retiring this time around,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So now we move. Oh wait, I had these two flip. So now we move over to the Sharks. I know this season was not the finish they wanted. They did have a massive collapse. But realistically, if you're a Sharks fan, like, the future is incredibly bright for them. Macklin Celebrini is everything and more. Like, he had a season not seen since Sid the Kid Crosby entered the league. 110 points, 42 goals, and 68 assists. At 19, he finished fourth. He was fourth on the Olympic team, for God's sakes. I think realistically, the Sharks are in probably one of the best places they can right now, and it's getting even better just because they got the second overall pick in the lottery as an extra bonus. Like, I'm curious to want to know. I want your take on this. I was talking with someone. I think with the Sharks, if they don't flip it, I think their pick should be a defenseman. Because I think of it like this. Taking Stenberg would be a huge, huge move. It's like Gretzky and Curry, the second coming of Gretzky and Curry. But I think realistically, like, their back end needs help just because, like, their last few picks have been center. I think they need a D shot. So
yeah, no, I agree with that. It's just kind of interesting how I think Stenberg. He's like the second overall rated player, and he's been like falling.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might just be it's weird things that NHL teams have too much time on their hands. But yeah, Anyway, that's really all I got with the Sharks. Like, they got a bright future ahead. And
Oh yeah, this was a great season for
Yeah.
them despite the result.
yeah, they'll be. I guarantee you, they'll probably be in the postseason next year, if not within the next 3. So yeah.
Yep.
St. Louis. It kind of feels like with the Blues, like there have been issues slowly bubbling to the surface for years now, and they're kind of like at the point where they should start admitting to it. Like, I think realistically, it's been a culmination of issues. They've been trying to do this thing of kick the can down the road, and I really just don't think it's working anymore. Like, I'm not saying like they need to fully strip it down and rebuild. Like, they can probably hang on to Kyrou, Thomas if they really wanted to, depending on if he does want to stick around, Buchnevich, and a few other guys. But I think the main thing is, like, you got to wonder, like, what do they do? What do they do with a lot of the other guys? Like, because I guarantee you, Jordan Binnington, he might be done as well. Because aside from the Canada stuff, like, the results have not shown for it. So.
Yeah. No, St. Louis is kind of tough because they have the talent on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not there.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's probably more a little towards rebuild with them.
Yeah, because I think realistically, you also have to look at the division they're in. You don't think out of all the teams in the West, you don't see them. At best, they can get a wild card spot. That's about it.
Yeah.
With them. So yeah, now moving over to Seattle. With Seattle, they're weird because I've come to the conclusion that 2023 kind of was just a blip, was kind of just a flash in the pan. Because I think ultimately right now it just seems like it's been regression every year with these guys, and I think it's to the point where it's like they may just want to say, screw it, why don't we just start stripping it down and rebuilding? Because rebuilding is not good for overall fan growth. At the same time, like, you can't deny that you look at the roster right now, it's not exactly something that you can win with. Especially with the high... Like, here's the thing. In 2026, there's an argument that their best scorer is, like, Jordan Eberle. That's a big problem.
Yeah, I think the big issue with the Kraken right now is they just don't have scoring.
Yeah.
And that's what they desperately need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I think that's a reason why a lot of people are speculating Shane Wright might be traded at a depressed value, because I think realistically he might have been a little overdrafted. I think he could be a good player. Like, he's 22 years old.
He needs a change of scenery is what it is.
No, hard to argue there. So, but also the fact is that Ron Francis is out as executive. So I think now they're going to have to try and... That's kind of why I think rebuild's on the table, because they have some cap space. They have a lot of draft picks coming up. Like, I think it's just time to maybe start thinking about the future core. So.
Yep.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. The Toronto Maple Leafs. Where to begin with you? Here's the thing. Even as someone who has a reputation of egging on the Leafs, I had a little sympathy for them. Many people point to Marner leaving for this collapse. No. This was issues that were stemming deep from the Champlain and Core 4 era. Like, it's just this team clearly needs to step off the ride before it gets too late. Like, it's just a culture so bad. There were speculations that they were using AI for their solutions and bleeding the fans dry. Like, it even got worse when Austin Matthews got taken out by Rako Gudas. Like, it's just like, it's so many issues with the Leafs right now that it's like at the point, like, here's the thing. I know people are going to say, like, they drunkenly stumbled into the first overall pick by Gavin McKenna. Like, here's the $1 million question. Do you think McKenna is coming in and fixing all this team's issues overnight? No. Exactly. And it's going to get worse because realistically, now the Leafs enter an offseason with more questions than answers. Like, they brought in John Shaika as GM after his glorious stint in Arizona with Matt Sundin as a special advisor. People are already speculating if Austin Matthews is gone, along with many other guys on this team. Like, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know what you do if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I feel like the direction that the Leafs should go is not absolutely the direction they want to go. and they're gonna go they're gonna try and compete.
Which they shouldn't, because realistically, they don't have the team for it.
Well, they have a good team, but there's so many issues.
Yeah.
With the team.
Which I think one thing that I want to know your 2 cents on this. If you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, is trading Austin Matthews going to be is something they should do? Do you think Matthews should be traded?
It's not going to happen this offseason.
Yeah, I know. It's probably not, but I think it's getting to the point where, he's under contract for the next 3 years. I think if it's not, here's the thing. If this is it might be a case where it's like a Quinn Hughes. We get into, December next year, he may just say, trade me, and they have to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now Vancouver. Oh, good Lord, where to begin with you, boys? I get it, Here's the thing. Many people will point to Quinn Hughes causing this collapse. No. This season died for the Canucks when they chose to run it back. It was clear that after 2023, they should have just stepped off the wagon. That was the time to do it, and now they're stuck. The truth is, they had nothing positive this year. Besser, Linus Karlsson, and Elias Pettersson were productive, but there was nothing else around them, they traded off Connor Garland for something, but realistically, I think it's just, I'm going to make this simple for the Canucks. If there's a time to rebuild, it's right now. Here's the thing. I get you got screwed out of the lottery, but I look at it like this. The Sedin twins are coming in, because Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford are gone. Realistically, I think you got to start rebuilding this team. You can't sit there and tell me, you can do a retool and get this team back to where it needs to be within, 2 years.
Yeah, no, it's a complete rebuild. It seems like they're going in that direction, and it's a good thing they're embracing that.
Yeah, because I think the big thing that scares me is what Francesco Aquilini wants to do because, there was just so much. There's always been stories with him. He got, especially this off the ice with his family suing him, him kicking out a reporter for doing his job, I think realistically, he's just got to understand, you can't win with this team. You got to rebuild.
Yep.
That's just straight up.
That's where it has to be for them right now. It's rebuild.
Yeah.
So
they got the picks to do it because they got Minnesota's pick. They've got the Minnesota's pick this year. They got the Sharks' second-round pick. They have a lot of picks this year. I think the big thing is they need to stock up their 27 and 28 draft picks because they're still light there.
Yeah.
So, now moving over to the Capitals. I think it just feels more depressing with the Capitals because I think it's clear that the window for them's been closed for a good bit now. I just think the big question, like the past few years, is what's next for Ovi? Because he's going to be a UFA. I think he's between two things: retirement tour here in the States, or just going back and doing a year in Russia. Because I think ultimately it's going to be his call. I think he's got to be done within the next 2 years at minimum. So
yeah, but I think the thing about this team is that they're very well set up, despite the season, which they missed the playoffs. But based on how this season has gone, they're very set up for life after Ovechkin to at least be a competitive team.
Yeah, no, because you've got Protas, you've got Dubois, Tom Wilson, and Dylan Strome as veterans. Riley Leonard signed his ELC before the deadline. They got some pieces and they've got some options. I think they just kind of need to start preparing for the day that comes where Ovi isn't going to be there anymore. So.
Yeah, but they're set up pretty good. They could be back in the playoffs next year.
Yeah, no, they definitely could. They have some cap space to play with, so if they wanted to take on some older guys, they could, but ultimately I think it's their call. So.
Yep.
Yeah, the Winnipeg Jets. Honestly, like a lot of teams we've talked about so far, I think the big thing is it might be time for them to rebuild, which I know it's not a good idea considering they're in a small market and a small Canadian market at that. But I look at this team, Like the only guys they have that are under 25 are Isaac Rosen, Nikita Chikara, Cole Perfetti. Like a lot of the other guys are just in their 30s, in their like 25 or 30. Like I think ultimately it's not a team you can really say is going to be, especially in the West, like the Central right now. Like I don't know if they can really compete. Like that's the issue with the Jets.
I mean, I think there is a world where the Jets can compete. I think really what undid them this year is that depth scoring and depth really undid them.
Yeah.
So I think if you can just solve that, they could probably be back to being a playoff team.
Yeah, no.
I don't think it's out of the question.
I think ultimately it's going to have to come down to, you got a couple of your guys who are in their 30s going to be coming off, like Nike Fist. I think Taves has got to be done, right? Right? Like the dude's 38, like, and he didn't have a good year. Like I think he's got to be done at this point. So
he might be back for one more year, but
yeah, I don't know. So yeah, now that we got those out of the way, we can focus on the teams that went to the playoffs. So, Ottawa, 4-0 sweep at the hands of Carolina. I will give them credit, like they were able to turn it on after the Olympic break and get back to the playoffs. But I think ultimately, it's just like they were in a situation where they didn't think they'd get this far, And I think realistically, like it wasn't a bad season, but I think the big thing for Ottawa is they probably got to change some things up this year. Obviously, Giroux, Ehlers, and Jensen are probably going to be off the books. And then you also got to wonder this. Like, I know the odds of it happening are very slim, but if Brady Tkachuk wants out, is that going to have to be something they account for as well? Because while he is a pest, he's one of their better players. So,
yeah, no, I think Ottawa is. I mean, what's the word for it? Like, they have the pieces, they have the stars, they're up and coming. I think now this is 2 years where they've had a wild card spot back to back, and I think next year the goal should be trying to go for a division spot for them. Now, can they do it? I'm not sure. They did sneak in the playoffs, kind of because Detroit collapsed.
Yeah, a lot of it had to do with Detroit screwing
up.
But
we'll see where it goes from here. But I think that should be their goal next year if they want to keep it going with this core.
Yeah. So now the LA Kings. I have just one question. Do you think this team regrets hiring Ken Holland yet? Like, good Lord. You made the playoffs despite injuries, selling off pieces at the deadline, having 20 goddamn overtime losses, and having to axe DJ Hiller for DJ Smith. You got to avoid Edmonton, but it came at the price of having to face the Avalanche, in which they swept you, no shocker. Be thankful for Artemi Panarin, otherwise you would have been dead in the first 2 games. Now it just leaves, like, I think just the big thing is, like, I think it's frustration because, like, it's constant mediocrity with the Kings for a team that says, like, they've got the pieces and they've got the talent. Like, what do they have to show for it? Especially now because Anze Kopitar is retiring. Like, it's just, I don't know what you do with the Kings at this point because it's like you can't just keep bashing your head into a wall until it works. So,
yeah. So the Kings. So first off, Fiala coming back is going to help them.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have him down.
They didn't have him down the stretch. So.
But Kopitar leaving is leaving a massive hole at the center for them. And I think that's going to be the big question for them going into next season is how is that going to feel? Because I think how is that he going to be missed?
I think realistically, if you're the fans, you got to hope to God Byfield can fill that role. Because
it is up to him.
He's 23. He's 23 and he's extended long term. They got us now that Anze's down. They got to be like, okay, you got to show why we took you second overall. So that's the big thing with the Kings. So now we move to the Pens. Honestly, like I think the Pens, like it is despite here's the thing. They made the playoffs despite despite everything that happened. But I don't think you can really deny it anymore. Even though they made the playoffs, the idea of rebuilding might need to be in discussions. Maybe not this this year, but in like the next year, 2 years. Because here's the thing, like obviously Crosby's still Crosby at 38 for some reason, but Malkin's likely going to be. Malkin did say he's coming back for one more year, but I think ultimately you got to have some more conversations. Like Chris Letang, like dude, you seriously got to, seriously, you should probably retire. Like it's just hard because like it's just constant health battles with him. Like I think ultimately like it's just realistically you got to start having the conversations like what's the future hold for life after Crosby, because he's not going to be there forever.
Yeah, I mean, but like while they're there, you can't just not compete.
Yeah,
for a cup.
Mm-hmm.
That's their problem. Is that really until their big three leave, I think they have to be competing for a cup. But they made a lot of good moves in last offseason to help them get into the playoff spot, so they could do it.
Yeah, I think the big thing is like they probably should bring Igor Chinakhov back because he's an RFA. They can probably let a couple other of their UFAs walk. Like they'll probably they'll have some stuff to work with for next year. So that's the $1 million questions. In the meantime, you're just gonna have to deal with the fact that Gritty constantly threw Penguins from the rafters of the arenas. So yeah. Oh boy, I've been waiting for this my whole life. Sorry to Stars fans. Life comes at you rather fast, doesn't it? 1 minute you're having to fire your head coach for pulling your starting goalie in the conference finals. The next you're losing to the team that you stole from years ago. So yeah, here's the thing. I know Stars fans will blame the seeding or Rupe Hintz being out for why they lost. No, here's the reason you lost. Your loaded forward couldn't score on 5-on-5. That's why you lost. Also didn't help that just like last year, the concept of defense is non-existent and the back end was dead weight for a majority of the series. It's a shame too because Onger had some flubs, but he was outdueling. He was in a heated duel, but got outdueled by Wallstead down the end. Now the offseason leaves a lot more questions for the Stars. I think Robertson is going to be a tough question to ask because he is an RFA, and I think they obviously want him back in the fold. But the question is, can they even afford him? Because they've got $13 million in cap space with Robertson as an RFA, Maverick Bourque, who was one of their better players this series, an RFA. And besides that, like they gotta make some choices. So,
yeah, the thing about the Stars is, because they have the cap issue. It's you got to sign Jason Robertson, but then you have to sacrifice a ton of the depth, or you get that depth, but then you don't have Jason Robertson, and
there's no upside to it.
Yeah, there's no upside to it.
There's no upside to either argument. So
if this was next offseason. Because next offseason, Tyler Seguin's contract comes off the books.
Yeah, Seguin's contract.
This would be a different story, but this is not next offseason. It's this offseason. So
yeah, at least the good news is they can probably get rid of Jamie Benn. By the way, thanks for throwing him on the ice during the last minute of the game. So yeah. In the meantime, pretend this is a good old cup of Norm Greed's tears. So I'm celebrating that a little way too much, so. Oh, God, I forgot what's next. Edmonton. Oh, my God. As much as I want to say I'm surprised about this outcome, you cannot be. When you hire Stan Bowman to be your GMs, you think it's only going to get worse, What? Stop me if you heard this before. The Oilers made the playoffs off the back of Leon and Connor. They had no depth scoring and they had nothing else on defense and they had a piss poor goaltending. Oh my God, it's not like it's happened the past 15 years for this team. So yeah, essentially it's a big problem that they have literally nothing, and it's essentially even worse now knowing that Chris Knobloch is fired. And then we get to the fact that they're stuck with Tristan Jarry. They seriously traded Brett Kulak and a salary dump and a future second for this man. By the way, Skinner's a UFA, by the way. So you just made yourselves look even more like dumbasses. So yeah, and now that's not even to a bigger volcano, which I would not have to deal with if I'm the Oilers. You might have pissed off Connor McDavid, so let the trade rumors begin, baby.
I think he's gone.
So now you admit that McDavid's finally gonna get asked out?
It's not going to be this offseason. It's going to be. I think they're going to be. They're going to try next year, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I think it's make or break next year to prove to McDavid this team is serious. If not, I think he's gone.
Yeah, because literally, like, how do you even fix this team right now, Joe? If you're honestly a GM, how are you fixing this team? Like, straight up. You can't.
Well, you could. well, I don't really trust the guy fixing the team. That's
exactly. You do not trust Sam Bowman to do this. So, yeah. So, now, the Boston Bruins. I got to ask Boston, was this really worth it, if we're being honest? Like, I get it, you made the playoffs, but it was mostly due to the team being a smattering of loose parts, Morgan Geekie going off, and David Pastrnak. The only reason you guys stole 2 games from Buffalo was because Jeremy Swayman and Buffalo needed to do a quick goalie change. Like, here's the thing. If you're Buffalo right now, the big thing you got to hope for is that Fraser Minton and James Hagan can start to thrive on this team. Because I think, ultimately, like, you look at a lot of the players that Boston's got right now. Their only guy coming off, the only 2 guys they have off the books this year, Henry Jokiharju and Victor Arvidsson. Everyone else is locked in for at least another year. So I think ultimately you gotta try and make some decisions if you're Boston, because I don't think this is a team that you can go for it right now. I think there's just too much unknown variables with them.
Yeah, I feel like making the playoffs might have hurt.
Oh, Boston, so you're willing to admit to that one? So yeah.
Yeah, it probably hurt more than it helped.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Like, they could... they got some decent young guys. Like, I think Fraser Minton, they fleeced Toronto in that regard. Marat Kuznetsov looked okay. I think, realistically, they got to just kind of keep hoping to God they can scout and draft properly. So, yeah.
Yep.
Now moving to Utah. Congratulations, Utah. You made the playoffs. Now you get to experience what the heartbreak is like in said playoffs. Honestly, like, I just feel like with Utah, I'm just glad we don't have to talk about the Arizona stuff for like the 80 millionth time. But overall, I thought they had a commanding they had a really good season. Problem is when they went up 2-1, they got too comfortable and then crumbled, which tends to happen. That's the big thing with Utah. Their core is very young, and this was their first real test of the playoffs for this group. This is Clayton Keller's first time. Dylan Genther, Nick Schmaltz, like a lot of these younger guys' first time in the playoffs. So it's just one of those things that kind of happens. Like, I think ultimately, like, they have a little cap space to play with, $15 million. Like, they still have some RFAs. They still have a lot of young guys. Like, I think they're in a good place right now. They're one of the better situations to be in the league right now, or at least the group that made it went home first round.
Yeah, no, Utah. It's really cool that they made the playoffs. Great for them. What kind of fascinates me and probably proves the point is that this is basically the same team that was in Arizona, the same coach that was in Arizona. So it's just, I mean, there's a couple of players that aren't, like JJ Peterka and then Mikhail Sergachev were in Arizona. Yeah. But like most of the team was in Arizona, so it's just ownership matters.
Yeah, I mean, and ownership does matter, and like we're seeing that how like essentially Ryan Smith's turned this organization around and made them a mainstay for them. So yeah, It's a great sign for Utah. The Lightning, similar to Germany during both World Wars, the French never forgot you and came for a receipt. Yes, it's true it took them 7 games for Montreal to finish the job, but I think realistically, the Lightning this year, they're not the same Lightning that they were in previous seasons. Like, ultimately, I think now is the time you start wondering how much juice you got left in this team, because this is, I think, like their second or third straight year where they've been one and done in the playoffs, and the core's not getting any younger at this rate. Obviously, like Kucherov's entering the last year of his contract, and he's on his entering his early 30s. Gensel, Point, Gord, McDonough, and Paul are all on long-term deals, and just looking at them, it seems like those are very hard to really buy out, or even get rid of. And also you got to worry about Victor Hedman, who's been injury-riddled the past few years and is also stepping away to take care of his mental health. And especially with Vasi's post-game comments, who knows how much if he's got left back in the tank, because he's 31 as well, and goalies are known to have a bit of a shorter shelf life than most of the older guys these days. So I just really don't. I think it might be time for the Tampa to start looking for younger options and starting to set them up for life after this core retires.
I mean, they're not gonna fire him, but I would.
You want John Cooper gone? Really?
They need a change.
I mean, yeah, I can understand that because I think a lot of times head coaching matters. Look at what Vegas did with Pete DeBoer. They got rid of him, brought in Bruce Cassidy. It worked.
Yeah, they're not going to. He's not on the hot seat. I'm just saying. I think that's really what this team. needs.
I think a coaching change could work. So yeah, I could do that. So now the next one, the Flyers. Sadly, I think this was kind of the blood cost of beating the Pens. It's not all bad if you're the Flyers. I think it was a year where they played way over their heads and kind of benefited from the teams around them collapsing. But overall, I thought they had a great. I thought it was great. I think the big thing, if you're a Flyers fan, even for the rough exit, you're looking at the team right now. Your future is Porter Martone, Denver Barkey, and the dread of CDH fans everywhere, Alex Bump to be the future core. Zegras had a bounce back year, and he can probably stay long term. You need a lot of work. I think defense still needs some reinforcements, and I think Vladar probably comes back. I think you want a backup for him, and I think if you can also just get Matvei Mishkov and Rick Tocchet on the same page, I think this is a great situation for Philly to be in, especially considering it's been almost 2 or 3 years since they let go of Fletcher. So
yeah, I mean we'll see how it goes. They really shouldn't have made the playoffs, but they did. But they can get back. They still got the pieces and all that. I don't know if they will this offseason.
Yeah, they may not. Here's the thing: if they miss out next year, it's understandable. I think the big thing is you're seeing them get younger, which is what I think a lot of their fans have been wanting them to see happen for a long time.
But it's, as I said earlier, the Metro is kind of just wide open.
Mm-hmm.
So, a team with a great offseason can jump Philly in that.
So, yeah. All right, Joe, you ready for this? Do you have the time to listen to me whine about everything and everything all at once? I'm not mad, just like with all Minnesota teams, I'm just disappointed. But I'm still pissed about Game 5! Look, I know we should be happy that we got the dreaded monkey off our backs known as not getting out of the first round, but it sucks that we had to get bites back to reality by the Avs, And I think, realistically, I just think what went wrong for them this series is simple. John Hines panicked Game 2. You just had to keep in Wally, man. You just had to keep in Wally. But I think ultimately, even though I wish we could have gone further, I at least have hope for this team, which is a dangerous word to use at this time. Because, I think obviously, I know many people are speculating it. I think Quinn Hughes is going to re-sign. I think not, like we've talked about, not maybe the full 6 or 7 years. I think he'll probably do 3, line up with Jack, and then go from there. But I think ultimately you need him back in the fold.
Yeah.
But I think you got to wonder, out of a lot of guys hitting the open market, I think the only guys from the team right now who I want back, and I want to pull up the cap chart just to make sure I get this right. Yeah, so the only guys who I want back, Tarasenko I'm fine bringing back because I think he showed this year he has a little juice, and I think you're playing him on the top 6. He's better than most options you'll get. And I think, as much as I know it may be the minority, I think Zook comes back at least at a vet minimum because here's the thing, it's clear that he works well with this. Other than that, I'm fine saying goodbye to McCarron. I'm definitely fine saying goodbye to Mojo. And as for the defense, like Middleton, Bogosian, both gone, dead ass. Like I think those two are the two I want out. But like other than that, like that's like the big moves. Like I know there's talk about what do you do with Gustafson, but I think I don't think that's happening. So
No, it was a promising season. There's hope.
yeah.
Just got to build on it next year. Keep moving forward.
Yeah.
I think it might be a stretch, but I think the division is like winning the division is open for the Wild.
Yeah, because I think we'll get into it further. Because I think out of the three teams that were at the top of the Central this year, the only team that I think has a legitimate shot of keeping the same group together is Minnesota, or like keeping their prospective group together is Minnesota. So that's definitely going to be something you look at going into next season. So
Yeah.
yeah. Now the Ducks. Honestly, I think it's really hard to fault the Ducks if we're being honest. I guarantee that a majority of the people are just never really thought they'd get this far starting the year. Yes, they probably did benefit from Edmonton self-destructing, but they were able to steal 2 games over the Knights, which not many can do. You know, I think obviously they needed to. They have some more work to do. Like I think ultimately, I want to see what their cap situation is like because they have the nice thing is they got a lot of youth coming through and a crap load of cap space. You know, obviously, Lee, I think the big thing is getting Cutter Gauthier and Leo Carlson paid. Do you want to bring back Jacob Trouba for another year? Do you want some of these other guys? And I think the big thing is I think they got to figure out goaltending because Lukas Dostal was not good in the playoffs. Like that was a big issue.
Yeah. Well, I think like outside of the Wild, and then maybe a little bit of the next team we'll talk about, but like a lot of these second round teams, they made it to the second round and they really shouldn't have. Like they kind of punched above their weight.
Yeah.
Not the Wild. I think the Wild were.
The Wild, I think realistically, it was second round. And they had to have get to the second round.
And we can touch on it more with the next team about it too. But like, I feel like that just. Especially with Anaheim and Philly just being in the second round with how young their team is.
Yeah.
I think it's a plus for them. And they'll take this season.
Yeah, definitely. So now, the Sabres. Here's the thing. Out of all the teams that made the second rounds, this is the one team I'm not going to chastise. It's not worth it. Like, yes, they lost on self-inflicted wounds, but honestly, like, this is a season that's worthy of praise if you're a Sabres fan. First playoff appearance since the invention of Minecraft, winning the Atlantic for a 7th time, and their first playoff series win in over 20 years. Like, that's a lot to be proud of. You know, obviously they have the perfect blend of youth and veterans littered throughout the lineup. Like, I think the big thing is you wonder with them, is Alex Tuch going to come back? I think he is. But, you know, you wonder about a couple other guys as well. But at this point pretty much Jarmo Kekalainen and Lindy Ruff are borderline heroes for what they did this year. Like, I don't think you can ask for a better season if you're Buffalo at this point.
Yeah. Hopefully they keep it up and they continue the season and this wasn't just a one-blip wonder.
Yeah, that's, I think, the big thing, which, you know, we saw at during the playoffs. Their barn was electric every game. Like, you want to keep that going.
And yeah, maybe that momentum from the fan base helps bring in.
Yeah, it helps start this because I think ultimately Tuch comes back. You know, you got to make some decisions about Krebs and a couple other guys, but ultimately, like, I think you got something in Buffalo, and you got to. And if you're Jarmo, you got to capitalize on it. So.
Yep.
Godspeed. Okay. The Colorado Avalanche. What more evidence do I need to convince you people that the President's Trophy is cursed? Literally. Like, Colorado had their second best record in their franchise's history and were mopped the floor with by the Knights. After they blew a 3-0 lead in Game 3, they were SOL and defeated. The highlight from this series were endless scrums and Jared Bednar sitting at a poker table before Game 4. Vegas stops them dead in their tracks with zero pushback from them. Like, here's the thing. It's true that Makar and McKinnon were banged up, but it's not the reason they lost. They lost because of defensive lapses and kept having to change goalies like their underwear. Like, the Avs are likely going to... Like, here's the thing. The Avs are going to be back here, but they're entering a massive dilemma this offseason because $1 million question, Cale Makar. He is in a contract year going into this year. He's going to want to get paid. So, and considering how you paid McKinnon, you paid Landeskog, you paid Nichushkin, you paid Lehkonen, you see where I'm going with this? It's going to be an issue. Like, obviously, and yeah, like, here's the thing. The only guys coming off the book, Kulak, Burns, who's retiring, Blankenberg, and Joel Kurvanov. They also got to worry about Jack Drury, and they got to worry about Zakhar Bakarov. Like, Colorado's stepping on thin ice this time around.
Yeah, I think they're also a team that probably needs a coaching change as well.
But they won't fire Bednar. That's
they
the
won't.
problem.
They won't.
They will not fire Bednar.
They won't. But they definitely need a new voice in the locker room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, moving on. The Montreal Canadiens. Sorry, Canada. The Stanley Cup drought is officially older than both Justin Bieber and Pulp Fiction. 32 years and counting. Also, I still think it was criminal that the government officials didn't allow Quebec to have block parties. Those are sacred, damn it! As for the Habs against the Canes, simply put, they kind of just ran out of gas. Like, the offense went ice cold against Freddie Anderson, and ultimately, it was just still a case where they're still trying to learn a lot. Dobbs did his best, which I think, speaking of which, Jacob Dobbs, you found your answer in goalie. Congratulations. Like, that dude's going to be a beast. Like, I think overall, if you're Montreal, like, they're likely going to be back here. Maybe not next season, but within the next 3 years, they'll be back in the Cup Finals. Like, I think overall, this was a year where last year they were one and done. This year they got to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, it's the step in the right direction.
Yeah, maybe it's the theme of the year is it's changing in the guard for the NHL because there's a lot of teams that the rebuilds for them are finally paying off. Mm-hmm. But again, we'll see because Florida will be coming back healthy.
Yeah,
next year.
There's definitely a lot of up and coming teams, but there's still a lot of teams that are not ready to give up their spots.
Yeah, yet. So there should be some interesting. It should be an interesting season that plays out next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now we get to the big granddaddy of them all, the Stanley Cup Finals. Coming out of the West, it's the Golden Knights. What you are now hearing is several Canadian and American fan bases groan with agony. Yes, kids, the Golden Knights are back. Here's the thing. Like, there's been, surprisingly with the Knights, there's not been much turnover, which a lot of people were expecting. Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, and Ivan Barbashev are still around. The big thing for them, though, Mitch Marner coming in has been a huge, huge add for them. He's essentially trolling the Leafs, all of Larry Murphy and Phil Kessel, pretty much. On top of it, they still have their original misfits in William Karlsson, Riley Smith, and Shea Theodore. They've got Brett Howden, Colton Sisson, and Tomas Hertl, Noah Hannafin, like Rasmus Anderson, Nick Dowd, Dylan Coghlan, and more. Like, the big thing is, though, is their goaltending, because obviously Aiden Hill's injury and Akira Schmidt's struggles turned Vegas to one man, the scored of Philly and Carter Hart. Like, ultimately, like, Vegas has been playing well this playoffs. There's no denying that. And as much as I know some people may not have liked it, firing Cassidy for John Tortorella might have been the wise move, because Cassidy, he's a great coach. I did think he was losing the room, but Torch has really come in and had this team dialed in and focused. Like, that's not much you can ask out of a coach. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Then we get to their opponent, the Carolina Hurricanes. I got one thing to say. About time you guys made it here. Jeez, I thought with all the conference losses they'd never get here. Helps when Florida usually isn't in their way due to all the injuries they suffered. For the better part of 9 years, the Hurricanes have constantly been the bridesmaid and never the bride. What's unique about this squad is it's a unique blend of backgrounds. A team of misfit toys that play a style of hockey that's quick on offense, physical on defense, and fully bought into their roles. Seth Jarvis, Jackson Blake, Andrei Svechnikov, and their Hurricane lifers Sebastian Aho really are the homegrown pieces. But you got journeyman Taylor Hall, former Flyer Sean Walker, ex-Dallas star Logan Stankoven, and some more that are really great players, you know. I think the big thing is them getting Nikola Ehlers been a huge game changer for them just because they've really lacked that star power. You know, the back end has been awesome with Jacob Slavin, Shane Gostisberg, Jalen Chatfield, Mike Riley, and Keandre Miller. But I think the big thing for them this playoffs, it's Freddie Anderson of all people who's been outstanding for them. Like, you haven't seen a format like this since he was a Leaf, for God's sakes. Like, essentially, Carolina is in their first Cup Finals appearance since 2006, and they are ready to finally get it done. It's very ironic, too, that Rod Brindamore, the man who was the captain of that team, is going to coach them. So, getting into that, I want to know, Joe, what do you think your prediction is? Because I know mine, so... Because I know I just hit the people with a lot.
I know. I feel like for the series, I think both these teams really need it or really want it. I think Vegas probably needs it more because I feel like with them, they have cap issues.
Yeah, because I can pull that up as well.
Well, they'll deal with the cap issues, but like they're playing close to the cap and they need to get that depth.
They've got $2 million. They've got close to $3 million.
And they're gonna like refill that. That's not gonna be a problem. It's Vegas. They'll compete and all that. But I feel like it's gonna take a big hit. So I feel like it's bigger for Vegas to win this cup than it is for Carolina. Carolina, I mean, the East will only get better next year, maybe. Well, it was really good, but Florida will be back and all that to hurdle. So this is kind of a good time for the iron to strike when it's hot. But a lot of their pieces are still younger and are locked in long term.
Yeah, because I think ultimately, I think this is probably one of the more intriguing matchups because I think both teams have their strengths, both teams have their weaknesses. Like, it's very hard to really predict. Obviously, yeah, I think Vegas definitely is going to be playing with a bigger chip, knowing that they're going to probably be hitting cap issues if they can't get it done this time around, and they don't know when they're going to be back here again. Like, though, if I had to be honest, like, I think this is going to come down to the goaltending duel because if you're looking at two guys who really have had very long careers. Well, maybe not Carter Hart. Like, he's had a long up and down journey, but I think overall, I think Freddie Anderson's. If Freddie Anderson keeps showing up, like, it's hard to see a world where the Canes don't walk away from this. Like, I think it's Canes in 7, but I think it can go either way. Realistically, anything can happen.
I think it'll be Hurricanes in 6.
Okay, yeah. All right, so with that said, you've got Canes in 6, I got Canes in 7. That will be it for us this time. So, Joe, thanks so much again for coming on. So I appreciate it. See you guys next time. Peace out!